I grew up in a lower middle class, blue collar suburb of Boston in the 60s and 70s. I wanted very much to go to college, but it wasn't a given. It was probably less than 50% of those that I graduated high school with. It was the beginning of a journey to have a better life for myself and to have a professional career, which I started in my early 20s in human resources. It was 2004, I was 42, and I was at the peak of my career. And all of a sudden, I had a multitude of symptoms that were really bothersome and debilitating to the point where I was struggling. At work, I was finding myself forgetting things. I was irritable. I wasn't sleeping well. My husband was concerned, and because I was struggling at work, my strategy was to stay later so that I could try to catch up and figure out what was happening and also avoid any difficult conversations with Ken. Between the strain of the job and the strain of my marriage, I was feeling pretty stressed out. It was about 6 months after my symptoms became really debilitating that I resigned. Within the year after my resignation, I saw my gynecologist, and at that point I hadn't had a period in 12 months, and she was like, "Oh, you must be in menopause." Trying to pretend that I was fine when everybody else was looking at me knowing that I wasn't fine, I was very isolated because I didn't know what was going on, so it wasn't like I could tell anybody what was going on. I just knew that I was not feeling like myself. It was a little more than a year after my resignation that I went back to work in a part-time capacity, but it still didn't feel like it was enough for my sort of ambition. So I decided to go back to school and get a PhD in human and organizational systems. Postmenopausal, as my estrogen continued to deplete, that's when I started experiencing what would be more traditional symptoms of menopause, like hot flashes, like weight gain, like hair loss. I was doing a lot of yoga, which led me to really understand the power of more embodied healing. 2012, when I turned 50, that I first found a doctor that was willing to consider hormone replacement therapy, and I started it almost immediately and felt better almost immediately. So today I spend most of my time writing and speaking around the impact of menopause in the workplace, and more importantly, trying to normalize the conversation about menopause. And it's been really rewarding to help people understand the basics of why menopause is more complicated than we think it is. I think one of the important reasons for normalizing the menopause conversation is so women don't suffer in silence. Even if you don't have a debilitating menopausal experience like I did, it's important that you still understand the impact of menopause on your long-term health. Advocate for yourself, believe yourself. Menopause is inevitable. Suffering is not.